Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Live. I'm Kathy Mae Martin, and again, I'm excited to be your host. If you're buying or selling, you're going to need a great real estate agent, you're going to need a great lender, and most probably, you're going to need a great title company. And my guest tonight is an expert in the title field. She's going to help solve some of the pitfalls of titles and is going to answer a lot of your questions. So stay tuned. She's backed by over 60 years in the business, and we're going to learn a lot. You can check us out there on Facebook Live. You can comment there, or you can call us at the number there live on the screen, and we're going to answer all your questions live on the air. Stay tuned. We're going to learn a lot. Welcome back. As my guest tonight, I have Amy Bennett with TitleOne, who is a title expert. And like I said, they are backed by over 60 years in the title business. They're the go-to source for title in Kingston, and they do a great job. Thank you for being here, Amy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, how long you've been doing this, and what got you in this business?
I've been doing this for 26 years. Started in Knoxville, and I've eventually worked my way out to Lenore City and then into Kingston. And so I did nationwide title for several years as well. So I am pretty versed in title.
Yes, she is. I'm telling you, this is the go-to girl for title questions and all your title needs. Tell the audience, what exactly does a title company do?
So we do, as soon as you sign your sales contract, the agents will send it over to a title company, and then we go and search your title through the register of deeds and the records and check to see if there are any liens or if a survey is needed, encroachments. We check the back chain of title to see who all owned the property. So we kind of search everything and then try to clean it up before closing.
Yeah, and every once in a while there's some cleanup to do.
There is.
Yeah. So you help sort through all that and get those answers and give direction on how to clean that up. Hey,
yes.
We've got a question. Amy, no, it's a comment. Amy is amazing. So thankful to have her and TitleOne.
Aw, thanks so much, Tori.
Yeah, thank you. That is so true, so true. So I know a lot of people, and you always offer this at closing, is something called title insurance. Tell us exactly what that is and why, why people should really consider that.
So there are actually two different types of title insurance. There's lender's title insurance and owner's title insurance. Lender's title insurance is when a buyer is taking out a loan, then the lender is going to require that for their protection. Mm-hmm. So then owner's title insurance obviously is what the owner is going to want to get for their protection. And that is an optional thing. It's not something required, so they don't have to get it if they don't want to. But if they do, it is a one-time fee that they will pay at the time of closing, and it stays with them until they convey the property. Mm-hmm. That title insurance will help protect them from any kind of recording errors, ex-spouses or missing heirs that may have come out, survey, wrong legal descriptions, survey issues, that sort of thing. Encroachments, some encroachments will be covered under that. Mm-hmm. The misrecording of certain documents, forged documents, that sort of thing.
Where do you see the most problems with somebody that is needing title insurance? Where do you see?
Unreleased liens.
Mm-hmm. Unreleased liens, mm-hmm. Not estates or foreclosures sometimes.
No, mostly with unreleased liens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Very rarely would you see the wrong legal descriptions, like
mm-hmm.
if
I have
something
seen
got conveyed incorrectly, a wrong lot number, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have seen that though. So title insurance basically covers the owner's equity, correct, that they have in that house. And then lender's title insurance will cover the lender's equity that they have. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, good deal. How can a buyer avoid a delay in closing? What's some good advice there?
Always check your emails, and we recognize that everybody is super busy in the process of selling and purchasing real estate. Not only are you so busy with selling a home and buying a new home, moving in between, maybe dealing with a lender and getting them documents, but you're also doing your normal daily life with work and children and family and so forth. So it is easy to kind of fall a little bit behind, but checking those emails is super crucial in getting back to the title company, because any kind of a delay in responding to the title company with the information that they're requesting and needing, it will cause a delay in closing.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the buyers and sellers, they're going through home inspections, they're going through getting a loan process, they're also working with the title company and trying to have a normal life, if there is such a thing when you're buying and selling. So it does get a little hectic, and there's a lot to get done in a short amount of time. But it's so crucial because you're bound by that contract date and getting those things done, and it is your responsibility. What issues can normally come up for a seller during title work?
Anything that could have been found in the title search. I think the biggest issue would be that they would need a survey, especially property that they've owned for a really long time or that they've inherited from family members. They tend to not have the best of legal descriptions, and they may have to get a survey, and that's going to cause a delay in closing because surveys can take a while to get. The other thing would be getting the title company the information that they need, such as their payoff information, HOA information, things like that we have to then turn around and order. And sometimes when you order something, it can take about 5 to 7 days, so that's another week added on. So that can cause a big delay as well.
Absolutely. So things that would need a survey is something that you might come across in title when I know some of the old deeds said the oak tree on the corner near the third traffic light or whatever. It wasn't a real good GPS or legal description, correct? So
right, that would not be a good. A lot of the ones we see that are old will say, beginning at an oak tree in the middle of Highway 70. Well, that oak tree may no longer be there, so it's not a good beginning starting spot.
So it is good. And how long right now are you seeing surveys take? If you come across and you're like, hey, you call the realtor, is that what you do? You call the realtor and say, hey, we're going to have a survey on this one.
Yeah, and we call the realtor, let the realtor know, and then call the seller and let the seller know, and then the buyer a lot of times too, because they'll need to know that will cause a delay. And typically we're seeing about a 2-month turnaround time on surveys, so that's a big delay.
It is a big delay, especially if you've got a 30 or a 45-day closing and you find this out. The quicker an agent can get you that information once the contract is signed and bound, the quicker we're going to discover those problems.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that we can address them and hopefully overcome them prior to closing.
Yes.
So, how can a seller prepare for a smooth closing? What's some of the things that they can
have
do?
their information ready as in the beginning as best as possible. Their payoff information, HOA information, forwarding address, social security numbers, anything that we're going to need to be able to process the file. Have all of that ready as best as you can. Another thing is their closing date. Make sure that when they're signing the contract, that the closing date that's chosen, that they're available for that. That can also make or break a smooth closing.
Right, and a lot of times, many times, our buyers or sellers are out of state, and so you're doing mailaways. And that takes some time added into there. That's something that you would need to know ahead of time. how does that complicate things when they are out of town, and possibly some of them have been out of the country when we've closed?
Well, and being out of the country definitely complicates it a little bit more because you're having to deal with a huge gap in time frame. A lot of times they have to go to a U.S. embassy to have the document signed. There are some that will require you to make an appointment, and that can be weeks out. So being out of the country, it's best if you can do a POA before you go out of the country so that you can avoid that.
Absolutely. That right there is great advice. If you know you're going to be out of the country during your closing, you want to make sure and maybe try and get a POA before that. Absolutely. So if it is an out-of-town closing, are you emailing the documents? Do you have to overnight those? And of course they have to get a notary wherever they are.
Yeah. Typically we allow them to choose. So we tell them up front, we can overnight the documents to you, we can email them to you. Of course, if we overnight them, then you're adding on additional time and days, which could put a delay in the disbursement of, your closing. A lot of times people prefer to have them emailed, but again, they take on the responsibility of having the documents printed off and then taking them before a notary public to have them signed. They also have to take them and drop them off at a UPS or FedEx to send them back. There are remote notaries available. You can schedule that, but there's a fee that runs with that. So a lot of times people choose not to pay the fee and they just want to do the email and print and sign and send them back.
Yeah, but they do have to be notarized, especially the deed. Is that the most important document that needs notarized?
Absolutely. That's the transfer of ownership.
So you want to make sure that that's their wet signature, and they have to get that back to you. They can't email that back to you.
No, they can email a copy just so that we have a copy to, proceed with the ones that are at the closing table, but we'll have to have the original back for recording.
Yes, of course. So I know recently there's been a lot of changes if your buyer or seller is an LLC. Let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Okay. So one of the things that an LLC or even a trust or a corporation would need to prepare for is to be able to provide their documents to the title company. Anything that would show proof of who has the authority to sign on behalf of the company or trust. And now we have to deal with FinCEN, which is Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And so when dealing with them, we have to provide a lot of documentation and a lot of information. A lot of it's personal, and it has to do with your financial stuff. And that has to be submitted before you can go to any kind of a closing and approved.
Yeah. So if you are an LLC and you're buying or selling, just know that you're going to have to expedite things very quickly to the title company if you want to close on time. Is that, would that be realistic if they were cash? And I know a lot of times cash says I want to close in 2 weeks. If you're an LLC, is that even realistic anymore?
Not for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Not if you're an LLC and you're paying cash. No, you need to allow yourself more time. But it's going to depend on how fast the people move. You know, it also depends on how many people you have within your LLC, because all of that information will have to be submitted for every single person. So,
And that started when? April?
March 1st.
March the 1st,
Yeah.
So this is all new to the title and real estate field.
It is, and
with
we're
the
learning
LLC.
as we go.
Yes, oh, for sure. So do you think a 30 or 45 day closing is realistic for the LLC? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Lincoln Bennett. Now, who could that be? He says, that's my
son.
mom. Woo-hoo! I'm so proud. Well,
Thanks.
And you should be, Lincoln. Thank you for tuning in. Your mom does such a great job. We're so glad to have her and have you here tonight for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so one of the big things in our business is so much fraud going on. And one of those things is wire fraud. Let's talk about how we can make sure that, there's not wire fraud going on with the buyer or the seller? Tell us some of the things that we look out for.
We have a lot of things in place to help us with wire fraud. We have, there are secure portals, Closing Lock certified, that we provide wiring instructions through to give those to the buyers so that they know that they are retrieving their wiring instructions from a secure source. They could also always drop by the title company and pick up a copy so that, you know, it's been hand delivered to them. It can be faxed. You should never trust anything that comes to you via email, and definitely anything that changes. If you receive a set of wiring instructions and then you get another set a little bit later, you need to contact the title company to see if they actually did send that, because that's a big red flag. As far as sending wires, we go through a protocol. We use Closing Lock, but there are other, you know, verified sources as well that you can use that you'll enter as a seller. You will enter your wiring information, and it will be verified through the banks and insured. So.
Yeah,
and that's for everybody's protection. The seller's protection, our protection, the bank's protection, everybody.
Everybody involved. And we actually have a form that buyers and sellers sign saying that I personally would not email you asking for your wiring instructions, because what happens is a lot of times is they'll change one letter or one number in an email address and make it look like it's coming from me.
Yeah.
And those wiring instructions get sent to the wrong place. So just know that your agent only give your title company wiring instructions. So another part of that, there is so much fraud going on. It's a scary world we live in.
Yeah.
Is people that are trying to sell a property that they don't own. And so a lot of times, I know, like when, you know, the last time we bought or sold a property, you guys sent out a letter to the house.
We did.
And said, you know, are you selling this property? Just to make sure that it was me selling the property. And so I really appreciate that. That is something that we have to do now. It's just something
Unfortunately.
Because we get calls, and I said I was going to do a show sometime just for real estate scams. And audience, be aware, there is a lot of real estate scams out there. We get people calling every week wanting us to sell a piece of property that they don't own. They'll, you know, act like they're the owner and, you know, give us all this information, and, you know, we try to do our best to double check, but, you know, I appreciate you guys going above and beyond and making sure that once it did get there, that you are dealing with the right people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
happens
that's for
a
everybody's
lot.
protection.
Yeah, so what trends? Oh, we've got a comment. Let's see. Jamie Bullock. So thankful for Amy and TitleOne.
Thanks,
I am
Jamie.
too. Yeah.
We're thankful for you too.
Yeah. Amy does a great job for us, and it is so important. I can't stress enough how important it is to have a great title company on your side, and a title company that's backed by a real estate attorney that knows real estate law. Sharon Clark, they're best around. She does a great job, and she knows her stuff. Yeah,
She does.
she really does. So
Been doing it a long time.
she has been doing it a long time, and I remember her dad, Bob Badger, was doing it when I first
Yes.
started, so I worked with Bob, so she's got it in her DNA.
Yeah.
For sure. So some of the trends that you're seeing with closings right now, what are some of the trends with real estate closings?
A lot of people want to avoid closings, and so what they would prefer to do is just a deed transfer, and
Wow.
that opens the door for a lot of problems in title, which only, you know, that makes us want to emphasize more on how important it is to work with an agent or get a title search done, because you don't know what there is out there.
Will you actually close a property that refuses to pay for a title search?
Well, it wouldn't be considered a closing. It would just be a deed prep only. So we would just prepare a deed and give it to them, and
Scary.
they run with it.
That's really scary,
It is,
Amy.
very much.
It
But
may
it's
not be
huge.
scary if you don't know the what ifs that could happen, and that's why we're here today. We're really trying to educate the audience to how important and how mistakes get made with title, and you may not know it for a few years or until you get ready to sell
it.
Yeah, exactly. Or the neighbor's selling and he realizes that I had this happen one time. Got ready to sell a house, and the title company noticed something wasn't quite right on the title description. Well, the house, been there for years, the bedroom was built on the neighbor's property. So you just never know. I can't imagine buying a piece of property without doing a title search. What's the average cost of a title search?
About $350 to $500. Just if it's one parcel and just standard residential. If it's commercial, it'd be a lot more because there's a lot more involved in that. But yeah, about $350 to $500.
Yeah, which worth every penny
It would
of
be,
it.
absolutely.
And the title insurance on top of that.
Absolutely.
What separates a good title company? And remember, I said a great agent, a great lender, and a great title company. What separates the good from the great?
So a great title company may have a small delay in closing and can be done with a closing in about 30 minutes, whereas a good title company may get you to closing in a week and be done with closing in an hour. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense.
Because a
That's
great title company
advice.
is going to tell you when something needs to be done, and not worry about just getting it to the table.
To the table. Yeah, and they're going to resolve a lot of the issues before you ever get to the table. Yes. For sure. Now, do you see one of the trending things that sometimes buyers have their title company and then the sellers will have their title company? How do you guys work that?
Yeah, that's a big thing right now. And we just coordinate back and forth with each other. The title companies work together, and the title company representing the seller will close the seller side. The one representing the buyer will work with the buyer side, and then we just sort of combine the documents at the end. But yeah, it's a pretty standard, pretty common closing situation.
It's a common practice. Does that tend to delay closings, or if there's not good communication? I would think
it's
so.
all about the communication. As long as there's good communication, no, you don't typically have much of a delay. The only thing you might have a small delay in would be the disbursement to the sellers, because the buyer's title company may have to wait for the seller's documents to arrive to them, which may be the very next day. But that's it. No, as far as closing, no.
Especially if it's out of town. Is there two closing documents or two HUDs, closing statements?
There would be for the seller, but not necessarily for the buyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah.
And that's
good.
just because each title company needs to have their own specific documents signed.
Yeah. We do see that a lot more where buyers are choosing their own title. And that brings up
And
a
they
good
have that
point.
right.
Yeah. That brings up a great point. Sellers and buyers have the option, and it's on our real estate contracts, to decide who they want to use as their closing agency. And typically my buyers and sellers will ask me, who do you
recommend?
Who do you recommend? So, for sure. What's everything a buyer should know about title, but probably doesn't? Can you think of one?
Like for with regard to what would show up on title, or with regard to like their closing?
Let's say closing. What was something that they might not know? One of the things I can think of is a lot of people don't bring cash to closing.
Oh no, don't.
Oh,
No.
yeah, these guys are allergic to cash for
Yeah.
some reason.
We
You
want-
can't, and you really tell us how you'd like to proceed with the funds for closing. How's that typically work, and what works best?
So we can accept money through a cashier's check or a wire transfer, and a wire transfer is the preferred method. Mainly because when you're at the closing table as a seller, you are expecting to walk away from that table with your money. So if when a wire is sent in, it's immediate and the sellers are guaranteed their money. When the cashier's check is brought, sometimes there can be a little bit of a delay on the cashier's check clearing the account, because it can still take 24 hours to clear an account.
And a lot of times, if you gave them a cashier's check, their banks can hold that for up
They
to
can.
10 days. So the funds are not immediate. I'm sure you deal with a lot of folks that are buying a house, selling a house, where things have got to transfer. Maybe they're selling a house here, but they're buying a house in California. Or even worse, they're selling a house in California and buying here, and they're 3 hours behind. That
Yeah.
wiring can get a little tricky
It can.
to get here. How long does it typically take if they've wired, and I know a lot of it depends on the bank, but they've wired their funds at noon and we've got to close in at 1. Is the funds going to be available? Probably not. Yeah.
That's tricky. If it's a local bank, possibly. But it's very, you
Yeah.
want to put at least a 2-hour, 3-hour window in between the two closings.
Yeah, and a lot of times, they'll have a closing that they're needing. The buyer or the seller will need those funds from that closing to close on another one
Yeah.
immediately afterwards. So it can get a little tricky orchestrating those closings for everybody to get their money on
And in
time.
cases like that, a lot of times we will coordinate with whatever title company they're going to be at, so that we can just go ahead and send that money over to that title company so that it's there and ready for them when they walk in for their closing.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I gotta ask you, what's one of the craziest title problems you ever had?
Besides yours.
Yes, go ahead, lay it all out there. No, besides mine, yes, thank you.
So I would say,
Hey, even nobody's immune
No,
to
no.
buying or selling a property that could have had a title problem which is a good question, and then we'll finish the other question.
Okay.
How far do you go back in your search? Do you go back 20 years, 30 years? How long do you go back?
average is 30, but we like to do 60.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You go back 60 years on that chain of title, making sure that there's no missing heirs, legal description's good, matches, all
Yeah.
that. So, yeah. So let's get back to the craziest one ever besides mine.
So I would say, this was several years ago, probably 12 years ago. I would say that the buyer and seller knew each other, good friends, have been for a while. The buyer purchases the property and does not get owner's title insurance because they felt very comfortable with the fact that they knew the seller. And 6 months later, they bought purchase with cash. So 6 months later, they called in that they were getting foreclosure notices and wasn't sure why they were being foreclosed when they purchased with cash. And it turned out that the seller, who was their best friend, took out a home equity line of credit the morning of closing and ran with all that money.
Whoa. Wow.
So then we had to track down the seller, and
Wow.
another reason why
Did
you need owner's
he
insurance.
yeah, was that done purposely or just out of ignorance maybe? Yeah.
I
Who
think it
knows?
came out in the court hearings. It was a purpose thing. He needed the money and knew that he was selling it and just did it. But that goes to show why you shouldn't, rely on the fact that you know somebody.
If it's family or friends, get title insurance. Hey, we got a comment. What exactly do you look for during a title search that most people don't realize can become a problem later? What's one of those?
Your chain of title, basically, from for those of you that don't know what a chain of title is, it's the chain going from ownership. So who owned it to who they sold it to, and then who that person sold it to, and that person sold it to. That becomes the chain of the title itself. So a lot of times there can be a break in that chain where a deed never got recorded. There could be someone who is deceased and there's a missing heir that never signed off, or several heirs that never signed off. One of the biggest misconceptions with someone that has passed away is somebody who is an executor of an estate thinks that they can just sell the property, and that's not necessarily always the case. So, there may be several heirs that need to sign off that haven't signed off because the executor thought that they could sign off for them. Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing that people need to that pop up a lot.
Yeah, great question, for sure.
Absolutely.
And to go back to the recent comment, you guys do have the seller sign something saying that they haven't taken out any recent loans.
We do.
And
mm-hmm.
Yes. And so
we ask them at closing, before they sign this document, we say, since you began this process, you've not gone and taken out any other mortgages, home equity line of credits, pending bankruptcies, judgment lawsuits, anything that would affect the status of title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so they sign that. Yeah, we've got another comment. Yes. Can you explain in some simple terms what a title company actually does from contract to close? And then we'll end on that one. Yeah.
So from contract to close, we order the title work, which is the title search itself, get it in, we review it. If there's any issues, then we start working on cleaning it up so that the buyer has clean and clear title. That would mean we track down unreleased liens, we get them released. If there's heirs that are missing that haven't signed, we track them down, we get them to sign deeds over. We basically just clean up everything to make it so that the buyer has clean title. And then we prepare everything for a closing, such as documents, and we go back and forth between buyers and sellers to discuss the funds that need to come in. And then we go to the closing table, everybody signs their documents, we disperse funds to the seller, to the real estate agents if there are any, and then it becomes the buyers from there.
Yeah. Well, that was the short, sweet version of it. She does a lot more than that, trust me. And she does a great job.
Thank you.
TitleOne does a great job, and we're so
We
thankful. They're located here in Kingston on Galahar Road. If you're thinking of buying or selling, be sure you get TitleOne on your side. They're going to do you a great job, and they're going to protect most probably one of your biggest assets that you have.
And I want to say that we have a great crew with our, there's 4 of us, plus the attorney and stuff, but
Yes.
we are a great crew. We work great together and always communicating, and that is huge for a great, successful title company in closing.
And it's the last impression that the buyer and seller have from that experience. And you guys always do a great professional job at the closing table, and everybody
We
feels,
try.
like they got their money's worth, so to say. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for answering all the questions tonight, and be sure and tune in next week on the next edition of Real Estate Live. I want to thank Scott Wilkes with Wilk Production for making sure this show happens. So stay tuned for another edition of Real Estate Live. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.